Also doing this to
Okay, can we
educate the
get
public, so,
started?
sorry, okay, go.
Okay, so we're starting the finance committee meeting on Thursday, October 19th at 6:31. And it is being recorded by Mr. Richard Cooper for the Southington, citizens of Southington.
I don't- I'm doing this to educate the public, so.
Okay. All right, well, thank you all for coming. So we have an agenda. The first agenda item is about a new maintenance vehicle purchase, and I'll turn it over to Mr. Kyle Fickle.
All right, so we have a vehicle purchase for the maintenance department. We have been in contact with Jim Lombardo and Peter Romano about the need for a new van. So we have requested a quote for a new Ford F-250 Transit van. This vehicle will be purchased.
Oh.
And it has been approved for the fiscal year '24 operating budget. Speaking with Mr. Romano and Mr. Lombardo, we've discussed that this will be used for a new Carpenter van. And the old van will go into use in other areas of maintenance. So the total price of the vehicle is $53,544.10. And this will get budgeted in the rental of equipment account, which is 32510.
This is to replace the 2008 unit?
Yes,
Yes.
with 94,000 miles on it.
There is also a memo that we included in the packet here from Mr. Romano, who could not be here tonight, kind of explaining the overall condition of the vehicles.
Yeah. How do you determine fair versus poor? Is that, I didn't necessarily see that.
There's a schedule in our, budget book that defines what fair and poor are.
Because there's like fine lines that come there, right? And you can go from fair to poor really quickly.
Quickly, yeah.
In some instances, you can hit a bump in the road
Yeah.
and, you don't have a, then it'll fall off.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he's rotted pretty bad.
I remember driving with Lou one day to a site, zoning site, right? And we took one of the town cars and it died. And we had to walk back because it was dead. Just died.
Yeah. So we go through in the budget book and we present, this schedule, that is in the back of the packet here. And then we have a column as to comments, reason for replacement. 1 is for safety conditions, 2 would be for high mileage, 3 is replace it when the trade-in value has dropped below a quarter of the original cost, and 4 is not recommended it for replacement at this time. So it's basically like a visual check on the condition of the vehicles. Mr. Lombardo is the one who goes through and rates these. Based on, you could see the mileage on a lot of them. There's still 1 or 2 vehicles that were gifted to us from the water department, so we received them already as a used vehicle. And then you'll see that we had been gifted a 1999 Taurus that we've been using for our inter-office mail deliveries and pickups. That is now junked. So you'll see there's a vehicle out in the parking lot, which is what George is currently driving, going around town. It does not look good at all. The whole front end is bashed in. So we're trying to get another lease, or it's a vehicle purchase using a 4-year payment plan to try to replace some of these vehicles. We did not enter any new leases last year, as you know, so there is a need, and they're requesting that we ask for approval to enter into a 4-year purchase agreement on a new vehicle.
So I'm not a fan of the rate here. 9.9% seems kind of high. I don't know how you guys feel. I wouldn't buy a car at 9% for 4 years. That's like a 13.3% premium over the cost of the car.
Right, well, and I have the same concern, and we had this conversation last year, regarding the other, the
The other truck?
Yeah, the other truck that we
Yeah.
ended up, you know, removing from the budget. And obviously, we still need that truck
Yeah.
too, and I read through, you know, today's, supplemental materials, and I even see in there, you know, where the administration is basically asking that we revisit, replacing that truck as well.
Right.
So with all that said, kind of, Jen, where do we, you know, I understand that this vehicle lease is budgeted. We have it in our 24 budget,
Correct,
and that's for the $15,000.
yep.
Do we have, what else do we have allocated on that budget line item besides, you know, the $15,000 lease payment for 24, and then even projecting forward? Because I'd also like to revisit replacing the, you know, the truck that we didn't replace last year.
That's
With,
the lift-
yeah, the lift gate truck,
Right.
with the idea that maybe, just maybe, and again, it depends where we're at budgetary wise, maybe we try and purchase this vehicle outright, at the cost of $50,000. Because obviously it's gonna be much cheaper than a lift gate pickup truck. And then maybe if there's funds allocated in that budget line item, then we could lease, a lift gate truck.
So, those are all great questions. I'll start with the lift gate truck. They, Mr. Romano, Mr. Lombardo, have revisited that purchase. The year of that truck is, Mr. Romano is of the opinion that the motor is fine, and that he would like to replace the body of the lift gate because it is actually rusting through. Mr. Romano did a visual inspection, just this week on that vehicle.
Okay.
So they've gotten a quote, because we got an updated quote on the liftgate vehicle, and it had gone up to over $68,000, I think.
It was close to, yeah, it was just under 69,000.
So Mr. Romano was trying to be a team player and, he got a quote to replace the body of the liftgate truck, and that came in at just under $10,000. And we just received that today or yesterday afternoon. So that was one thought that he had, to be able to make that continue to be a useful vehicle, yeah, for a less expensive price.
Okay.
Again, we're trying to, move in the right direction.
What truck on this, on the summary sheet here is the current liftgate truck? A plate number or whatever would work.
I'd have to pull out the, it's one of the laborer vehicles, I believe. I'd have to pull out the, write-up that we did last January. It's the rack body, I believe,
I
the
believe it's a-
2011 Ford rack body.
Where is that?
Right in the
It's not
middle,
halfway
yeah.
down, 49 SO.
Gotcha.
Mhm,
I believe it's that one.
mhm.
Okay, and
So that's the rack body, And then to revisit your question about what's actually in the rental of equipment line item.
yeah,
That line item has, the Pitney Bowes mail machines. We lease those, mail machines. You're looking at me like do you understand? We have, so in our
Yeah.
production room downstairs, we do all the mail for this building, including the town offices downstairs. We bill the town for their postage, they pay us on that line item, but we rent the machines. All the schools, with the exception of the high school, send their outgoing mail to us here, and then it goes, out to the post office from here. So there's 2 mail machines, one here, one at the high school. We also on that line item, we do the Apple leases that we've continued to do. So we always have 2 of those leases at the same time. Then we usually try to have 2 vehicle leases at the same time. The liftgate truck from last year didn't happen, so currently we only have 1 happening at this moment, so we do have the capacity for that, this, maintenance van. The liftgate is the one that was budgeted, that didn't happen last year, so I believe the, line item had a higher, I think it was like $19,000 for
Right.
a payment amount in the rental of equipment line, because it was the liftgate truck.
Yep.
So this would be 15, which would fit within that, that capacity.
Okay. What do we, coming out of our last, public board meeting, we obviously made, the motion to allocate, matching funds for the, Steeps
Mm-hmm.
grant.
Mm-hmm.
What do we have left in non-lapsing after we make that?
So what you, the action that the board took last week closed out the new fiscal year 23 non-lapsing fund. So there's a 0 balance in that with the allocation of the steep funds for the 86,000. We are currently reviewing some of the safety projects that the town funded through their action of the Board of Finance and Town Council. Some of those safety items were also on our non-lapsing project approved list of projects. So they moved from there over to the, safety project fund of money at the town. So there is some availability in the non-lapsing fiscal 20 account that, that we could utilize if
Okay.
you're
Can,
of the opinion that you would rather buy the
Right.
van for 53,000.
yeah, can we get a exact dollar amount?
Mr. Fickle, Mr. Romano and I are currently working on that
Okay.
project. We actually met, was it Monday or Tuesday this week?
Yeah, I think it's Tuesday.
There's a lot of pieces coming together, yes.
Sean, I think you're looking to see where we can scrounge up enough money to pay cash.
Yeah.
To be, from my position,
Go ahead.
I think that would be great if we could, but I think we're gonna come up real short. I don't think there's that kind of money available. We're looking at 50,000, 53,000,
Yeah.
minus the 15,
Mhm.
so that's.
I mean, some of the camera projects and some of the redesign of the entry projects are currently on both lists. And that would be something that we were gonna be bringing to you before the budget process happened, in like November, December.
Right, but we don't even know what the true cost of that's gonna be. It was just an estimate that was put together over a year ago.
I think we put out.
For which, I'm sorry, for the,
For those safety issues that are now
Oh.
approved,
yes,
you know, by the time they put all the documents together and get a sketch and
Well, and that,
drawings.
right, and that's kind of the other angle I'm looking at it, right, is I think there's an immediate need right now with the vehicles, and even with some of these safety items, even though the money is earmarked, right, who's to say that those projects are happening this budget cycle?
Well, you're gonna have to,
well, the
You're
funds are
gonna-
allocated
they're
to
only
a
good
specific
now.
project.
Are we gonna get there though?
Possibly not in the 1 year, but for those projects, yes.
Okay.
So what they do is they've put the pile of money, I think it was around 760,000,
Mm-hmm.
is that right,
yeah,
780?
somewhere in that range.
And and they put that into one line item, and it does have a contingency built in,
That it
so
has
if
to be
there's.
spent this,
No, I'm saying that we have like a buffer of a 10%, on all the projects,
gotcha.
so that if we're over on one or under on another, those funds just stay in that particular account for us to use for safety purposes. And the list of safety, projects was presented to you in executive session, so we don't wanna go too much into that, list of projects. But I think we could, I guess I'm looking to you for your guidance.
Right, and,
We've always done them through leases, so that we can, maintain an
Level set,
even level of
Right.
funding, and doing the 50,000 obviously is a, the other thing that is in the rental of equipment line that has not been taken under at this point is a lease or some kind of, upgrade to the phone systems at some of the schools. So we've made progress at the high school, the two middle schools, this building, Baranowski, Kelly, and, Flanders, and Karen Smith Academy, because those locations were the least, new, of all the phone systems. So we still have several other schools that we're looking to upgrade, and Mr. Romano's currently working on that right now. So I don't wanna right now say that you can have the lease money that he has earmarked and budgeted in that line item.
yeah, my concern here is that, you know, we have, just looking at the bigger issue, right? We have a, you know, take the 10,000-foot view for a second here, is, yes, we're only talking about one vehicle and one lease. Typically, what we do is 2 leases, you know, and even with 2 leases per year, we're finding that we're falling behind. Okay, so I'm kinda trying to,
Plan ahead.
yeah, plan ahead and figure out a way to do something to prevent us from taking yet another step back. Because the reality is, we had, you know, and again, we made the right decision, right? Last cycle that we couldn't do the liftgate truck, okay? Because of economic conditions, the status of our budget, we did what we needed to do. But now, here we are, yet again, okay, and now we're talking about a different vehicle. Guess what? Next year, it's gonna be another vehicle. I mean, you see based on this report that, yeah, our average vehicle age is 14 years, average. So, we're kidding ourselves if we don't think we're gonna be talking about this specific line item, and we're gonna be talking about repair, maintenance, and replacement of vehicles from here.
I agree, but you realize though that we went in this direction only because we didn't have the funds to go out and spend, you know, $60,000-$70,000 for a vehicle. If you did it over time, okay,
Yeah.
$15,000 a year, it didn't have a major impact on our budget, if, you know,
Right.
cash-wise.
Yeah.
And that, once you get into a plan like we do with the computers, okay, it's a low
It's not
number
an
each year, rather than
incremental
spending $3 or $4 million,
increase.
we only spend a few $100,000. And we're keeping everything up to where we want it to be. Vehicles, I mean, by not getting that lift truck done last year, well, that's, I mean, we did it because we had to,
Yeah.
okay? Things, you know, if it's in the budget, I think we should probably go ahead and at least get a vehicle in here, because at some point, something's gonna die. And now we have more people than we have vehicles, and how do you get the person, you know,
Yeah.
Uber would be the next approach to try to get somebody to another school.
I don't disagree with you, right? I do think if we don't have the money, we should lease it, but at 9%, I think they're killing us on that. I think that we're getting a terrible deal on that. I don't know if we got different quotes from other financing, options from other lenders, but, you know, right now, I don't know of anybody that's selling cars at 9%, so why would a town pay 9%?
I think the interest rates are just that high.
Yeah,
No, they are, but like,
Yeah.
yeah,
but if you
commercial,
What about the
commercial
state
vehicles.
consortium?
Yeah.
That's it.
If it was a private, okay, a lot more
I mean,
competitive.
Yeah,
I mean,
Yeah, I mean, we're
I
gonna
can
pay-
certainly get another quote. When we were in a
I'll go
situation
to
a
another
couple of
lender.
years ago, where the state of Connecticut's, rating was being impacted, Ford wouldn't, lease to municipalities in Connecticut, so we went through another company. So we can reach out to them, that's that Municipal Leasing Credit
Right.
Corporation, and get another quote.
yeah, I mean, cause, you know, the Fed rate is what, like 5.5%, right? Whatever it is. And so they're scraping 4% on a loan that they know that the town is gonna be paying on. You know what I mean? That's a lot of money they're profiting on us.
I agree. But again, it's a commercial
right,
lease rather than a
Yeah, I
private lease, and
And the rates are just so high right now.
right.
But I agree, I think by having the ability to plan out 15 grand a year versus the bumps, right? And if they're truly able to get a body replacement for 10 grand, now it still has 80,800 miles, but if the
Right.
truck, if the engine's in good shape, if they've been maintaining it, that's not a lot of miles.
Yeah,
That's
and
not-
And that
Peter-
keeps
But you know,
both
you know-
vehicles running.
over the years, okay, we've had vehicles with 40,000 miles die.
And that could
It's not the
happen.
mile, because you're only driving
No, it's the
300
maintenance,
miles
if
here,
they've maintained it,
2
then we're
miles
doing
there.
pretty good.
But again, it's the start, stop,
Yeah.
and the bodies, you know, with what they put on the roads.
And that's what they're replacing, right? That's
And
what
there,
they need
in fact,
replacing.
there's a picture of one here.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, I'm all in favor of the truck, I hope, you know, I hope that you guys don't feel like I'm not in favor of, you know, getting the new truck. You know, it's just a matter of how we get it and how the rest of the fleet is impacted in my eyes. So, you know, like, yeah, if we do this one lease, yeah, that's $15,000. I mean, the way we sort of designed our budget to take care of our fleet was to do 2 leases.
So we already have one in existence. So
When does that one roll off?
next year, it will be gone. This is a year 4 of 4
Okay.
in this school
Okay,
year. So
perfect.
next year, we
Okay.
will be looking to do another one.
Well, that makes me feel a lot better because I'm,
Yeah.
Maybe
Oh,
roll on
And
the-
yeah,
that's, yeah,
correct.
And I
those are
think
the
we've
ones
proven
that are
with the
down
Apple
here.
leases, the computer
um,
leases, that system, when that came in several years ago, that worked out tremendously for the town.
Mhm.
Because you've been able to plan out, not just 3 or 4 years, but beyond that, how those leases are gonna go. You've got new product coming in, you can maintain the fleet, right? And then we're not gonna be looking at 1994 vehicles on here with 150,000 miles, 151,000 miles in poor condition that we're, and let's also face it, I don't want people driving a vehicle in poor condition like this. I mean, if we're listing it's in poor condition, that's not a good thing.
right,
So-
because then you end up revisiting safety issues.
Exactly, because you don't
Like,
want people driving.
forget about maintenance
Right.
issues, now we have safety issues.
But if we've got that opportunity to continue that leasing program, similar to the Apple lease, you put it in there, you got the 4 years, and I agree, if there's a way to find something a little bit less than 9.09%.
Sharpen those pencils.
Right.
Yep.
Then I think, I'm all in favor, I think we should keep the lease process going, and if we could if we have that 10 grand that you pull out of that line item, rebuild the body, and you've got you got a brand new and a good shaped vehicle, and then next year we revisit again, right? With, when that lease falls off, that falls to
Yeah.
into the older area, and then a new
You
one
know,
comes on board.
historically, what's happened is that when we put a budget together, we always put in a sum for some replacement vehicles.
Yeah.
It's the first thing that gets cut,
On the major projects and equipment.
Yeah.
Mhm.
and it doesn't get cut by us. Okay?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
And we
It's
ask
two
it-
other boards
Right,
that,
yeah.
Yeah, that seems like a logical move.
okay?
So maybe, maybe this can't be an action item for the next meeting, if maybe what we can do is have an opportunity to go out and research some additional financing.
And if
And
we
come
can
back
get
with
a
that.
different rate before, like tomorrow and circulate something.
Yeah, and then we can be
Cause
prepared for the meeting.
we're happy to call, I'll reach out to all the, other business managers in my, organization, and we'll reach out to the municipal people that we've used before.
Hey, go to Chambers, see what they offer.
That is true.
But that's through their Ford Motor Credit, right? Do they do it directly?
If you're buying off the state contract,
Yeah,
then.
you're
then
kinda
it's,
stuck.
mhm.
Well,
Yeah.
that's, I mean, I'd be in favor
But
of
are
that
we-
process.
Are we forced to go through, like, state contract financing, or can we just go private somewhere?
There's a caveat, and correct me if I'm wrong. If you go out to state bid,
Mhm.
they have means in which you have to follow. If you wanna go and get financing elsewhere, then you can go to any
But you
Ford
get a different
garage,
price.
okay, now you don't get the
Yeah.
state bid,
Yeah.
okay, which is probably $5, $6, $7,000 more.
Yeah, less expensive, yep.
So
So the total cost of ownership might be close.
it's gonna be,
Mhm.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and so we can see if there's another alternative to the financing, and, if we can circulate something back through, and then bring it to the full board for a vote, if you're agreeable.
Cause I think everyone's in agreement to go forward, right? It's
Mhm.
just, how do you financially do it properly? So
Yeah.
for the next meeting, it could be.
Yeah, I'd be agreeable to move forward, at the next full board meeting, you know,
Excuse me.
if, as long as we, explore other cheaper.
think you can get all that information by then? So I know we-
And if
There's,
they can't,
you
what
know,
if they
I
can't get
bet
lower
I can
than
have a
that?
quote tomorrow from the
As
municipal
long as we do
leasing
the
people.
work, right?
Then we've done the
Um,
research, right?
and then there's another fellow in,
yeah, I agree.
Casbo
Go
group
forward.
that
When's the
has
next board meeting?
contacts, so I
Thursday.
can reach out to
Thursday.
him.
Next Thursday,
A week,
Okay,
Yeah.
so that's,
week from today.
Yeah,
that's before the election, right? When's the
Yeah.
election?
Mhm.
It's next 2
nine,
weeks?
the seventh.
Yeah. We have one more board meeting before election.
yeah, it's next Thursday.
This
So,
week.
so good, so you've got the,
Yeah, I'll try to get something for you guys tomorrow,
Okay.
okay?
thank you.
Thank you. The next item, is just a mere formality. This is what you voted on at last week's, board meeting, to use, 86,000 out of the fiscal 23 non-lapsing, and the balance is a transfer of 120,297 out of the MERS line item to a major projects and equipment line item for the steep grant. So that number that I'm reading out loud is a little different than the one that Jasper, quoted, cause he said 119 some odd, because Steve's memo rounded down to, from 206,000, and it should have been 206,663, so it's $663 different than the number that Jasper
So the
did.
122.97 is the correct number.
Yeah, that's what engineers do.
I know, you even asked, is that an audited number? I said, oh.
Round up, we round down.
And I
That's why you're
know
always
that.
careful about what bridge you drive over.
Good point.
So if you're in agreement, that's what the
Yep.
board voted on.
Yep. That's
And
what
then
we
the
said.
second transfer of funds is a request from the technology group, in order to fund 69 computers for 3 of the labs at the, computer labs at the high school. This request is coming from Tyler Savage, our network manager, and he kind of wrote you a memo to go through why it's necessary. Cause I'm sure everybody's thinking we have one-to-one Chromebooks, so why can't the students, why do we even need, art labs and the Project Lead the Way labs? And so he kind of went through to tell you that the software that they use, the graphics on the Chromebooks just don't facilitate the curriculum. So what they're doing is, there was a $20,000, budget item that they had in this year's approved budget that, they're not, they thought they could make the Chromebooks work by using that $20,000 of software, but they, through the meetings that they had this spring and over the summer, it's not gonna work, so they wanna take that $20,000 and put it into the hardware line item. And then Tyler also detailed the Microsoft Office, the Microsoft Office suite that we have in the school systems. We've been able to stay on the legacy license, which is much less expensive. So we've been able to do it the last 2 years, but he is being told that this is the absolute last year.
So I was just gonna ask
So,
that.
yeah.
You keep, you know, I'm surprised you're letting you do it.
He was too, in this year's budget, he budgeted at like $76,000, and we're able to do it for about 24. So that's where the other 55 is coming from. So you'll see it's gonna get transferred out if you approve this, but then the budget request that you're gonna see coming back at you in November, December, January is gonna be back up to the 76,000. So they thought they would take this one-time opportunity to replace those three labs. And, they did remove many of the labs at the elementary level and the middle school levels, but the high school classes, the curriculum still demands having,
If you're not using this kind of software in elementary, middle schools, you did a good job with
Great.
the memo, it's very clear.
And again, I'd be interested to hear how you guys feel about this. What just resonates in my head is that we're asking to use funds for hardware in labs that are being moonlighted.
What do you mean?
I
I don't know what that
mean,
means.
Like, we're killing them off. Like, the plan is to get rid of them all in together.
well, no, the art labs and the Project Lead the Way labs are necessary. There's also another tech ed lab, I think there's a few other labs at the high school. They have gotten rid of the computer labs
Okay,
that
so-
previously existed at the elementary level.
Okay, so I'm not clear on the technology plan then. So we're permanently keeping 3 labs at a minimum
Mm-hmm,
from now into perpetuity, that's the plan.
well,
We probably can't say that,
I was
right,
gonna
because you don't
say,
know what's
depending
gonna
on
come.
software,
It's
5
and
years from now, who knows what's gonna be available? or
and
What
it
might
could
be there,
be
could be-
cloud-based, so maybe
be.
they don't need the software, but we
I'd
will
be-
need,
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, that was my that was my understanding, and again, you know, and like we chatted real briefly is, you know, is to adopt and move into, you know, current technology and do things in the cloud and do things online and use software subscriptions, not replacing hardware.
There's always gonna be some hardware components, always.
And you need hardware that can run this particular software too, because you,
And it's usually, so typically what I've noticed in the corporate environment is they give you a nice upfront price, and then they kill you a couple years down the road, even with the cloud cost, so like, you're almost better off kinda doing what Tyler is suggesting.
Yep.
From what I've seen, and I mean, it's not gonna be like the year 1 that's gonna be like that, but year 3 and 4 and 5, and once they get you locked in, it's kinda like the crack model, right? Like, it's tough to get out, and
Oh,
they're gonna just jack up the prices all the time. So, yeah, I mean, I think he's going the right direction with this. Just reading from his note here.
mhm.
it's pretty clear.
Okay, I'm just, for me, I'm just, without talking to Tyler and like having a overall encompassing conversation about what his desires and goals are in rolling out a technology program specifically as to, you know, one-to-one devices and labs and the necessity and how they're used both now and into the future, like, yeah, I'm kinda uncomfortable, like, transferring funds that are gonna go to, you know, I understand the funds aren't being used for what they were originally budgeted and designed for, so they're there,
Mhm.
but I just think it's a little short-sighted for me without having an overarching conversation about where we're taking our technology program.
But I think the tech plan is easy, because, not easy, it's been out there, right? The one-to-one devices, that's the plan going forward, and there is gonna be, from some point, over time, replacement of Chromebooks that need to be done, and so that's already in place. I think the labs, though, they're not part of the technology plan, they're part of the curriculum,
Curriculum.
right? So in order to manage the curriculum and be part and keep the curriculum moving forward, you need to then buy supplies. This is, I'm viewing this as the hardware is a supply in order to give that piece of education. The software is a supply to give that piece of education. And over time, and I get it, it'd be nice to think that that system would be in place forever, you do it once and you're good. But hardware, I mean, you know, I like my toys, right? So things go out of style so quickly, right? So, style's not the right word, out of, what's the word I'm trying to think of?
Usability,
They go
functionality.
They
Yeah.
become obsolete because the new software, as it becomes more robust and things, the system won't be able to run it. So will this be good for 3, 4, 5 years? You'd think so, but you can't even guarantee that at this point. But I don't think that's part of the tech plan. I think that's part of the curriculum going forward and being able to give them the supplies they need to run their curriculum.
Well, right, and if it comes down to curriculum, then, right, like, my hands are tied, right? Like, all my reservations and concerns go out the window, because at that point,
Well, no, you can still have the concern, right?
Well,
And it's
I
a good
could,
question
but-
to ask.
Right.
But I think, but by clarifying it to say that it's not necessarily part of the tech plan, the future planning for technology, it's part of curriculum. Because I think, you know, a couple of years from now, the board may be seeing a need for, I don't know, a more robust computer system. And then these then go into use somewhere else in the district.
Yeah, it's the same thing with the whiteboards,
Yeah.
okay? That was the latest,
The smart boards, yeah, they were the
yeah, the
greatest
smart
thing ever,
board, that
right?
was the latest thing since sliced bread.
And they were fantastic
Oh,
for
you
the
had to have
period of
them.
time that they had them.
Well, we were not replacing, we were enhancing the,
Right.
okay, every year.
Yeah.
Don't even hear about it anymore.
Yeah, because
Stupid analogy would be lights, right? So
Because
you
the
go
processors
from
are
regular
too
fluorescent
slow.
lights
No,
to
that's-
going into,
You know what it is? It's the
LED.
software, because the
Who
software
would've
gets
thought about it,
updated and
right?
bloated over time,
But it
and
happens.
then the old hardware can't run it, and so
Yeah.
now they force you to upgrade the hardware, and then the software gets even more, it's just a cat and mouse game all the time.
The marketing, boy,
Yeah.
and
so
it works.
what's your recommendation?
No, I think, you know, going the hardware route with what you did with the 3 labs is fine. You know, honestly, for this kind of thing, cloud does worry me, because I see the costs a lot, and the problem with cloud is people forget to shut them off, and they charge usually like per hour, per minute, depending on whether it's AWS or Azure. And those costs can balloon way more than the cost of the hardware.
Right.
Like literally thousands of dollars a year for one machine with a GPU, when you could have bought an engineering laptop for like $2,000.
Yeah.
So like that could blow up out of control if you don't watch it, and I guarantee you, people are probably not gonna be watching it 24/7. So that's I think Tyler's plan is a good one here.
I think he's aware of it.
Yeah, he's aware of it, yeah,
So we
That's why we
got
got
somebody there that,
yeah,
he's the policeman,
Yeah.
keeping an eye on it.
yeah.
And his staff, they got good people.
Some of these things could be like $1 an hour, right? That's $24 a day. And if you just leave it on running and nobody notices, $8,000 or whatever it was a year, just for one box doing nothing,
Yeah, and how many boxes do we have?
right?
So your thoughts are actually that it's a smart financial move. Like, forget about all the other, you know, factors going into this. Financially, you think it's a good decision to go to basically transfer these funds to purchase hardware.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because he's taking it from the cloud, that what he thought he would have been spending
Right.
in the cloud,
Correct.
moving into hardware for the 3 labs.
Okay.
Good.
Alright, so there's support for that item? Okay. Then the last item that we have is an update on the school lunch loan. I know some of you were on the committee when we were, going through the pandemic and there were operating losses. And we had talked about a possible repayment plan at some point. The auditors are asking, you know, is it a collectible loan at this point? We did it in, October of 2020, and, you know, now we're finishing up the 2023 audit. So there's a receivable in the town side, non-lapsing accounts, and a payable over on the food service side. So the thought process is to recommend that we release the loan from a repayment back into our non-lapsing account and allow the food service, new food service director to update the equipment, as necessary in the food service operations. So we've been very, fortunate that we did apply for a food service loan or an equipment grant out of the National School Lunch Program, and we were awarded a $50,000, equipment grant this year. And we're gonna use those funds to replace one of the kitchen ovens at the high school. We constantly are in need of steamers, which are around $45,000. We've been able to purchase a couple of those over the last couple of years, but she's currently going through all the kitchens. She brought in a rep from the outside who is not who we would be buying from, to kind of give an evaluation. And then we also have our internal maintenance staff who's helpful in going through and, kind of troubleshooting some of the problems that we have. But there's, probably a walk-in freezer that's gonna be needed in the next, year to 18 months, and that's almost $100,000. So, just thought we would bring this back to the committee. The auditors are coming back to us next week, so I was kind of hoping to at least say that we talked about it as a committee level, because this committee is the one who approved the $300,000 transaction. So I wanted to bring it back to our committee here, and recommend that we release it from payment, back into the board's non-lapsing account. And then wanted to hear your thoughts.
What about a recommendation to put it into collection?
We can't afford the collection service.
I knew that would get a laugh.
I knew we'd get here eventually, because you guys all know how I feel about the $300,000 loan, which, let's be honest, was never a loan. So here we are.
You're right, and we probably, it was a gesture which we thought that with the payments that when we got back on track, we could recoup that. But as it turned out, the free lunch, is basically
There's no
free
free
lunch.
lunch, yeah. It's no free lunch for free lunch.
So they changed the
Still have
law,
to make the money.
so we don't have,
And I'm seeing it as an opportunity for us to make some improvements in the food service equipment. In order to generate enough funds, because as you know, this is the only time that we've had to put money into the food service program. And in order to generate enough profit to replace a walk-in freezer or an oven of these magnitudes.
But they don't generate a profit, that's
Correct.
the issue, right? So that's why,
Correct. To
in
me.
looking at this, and you're right, you raised it several times in the meetings. I think the intention was it was gonna be a loan, very clearly was gonna be a loan, and was gonna
And I
get, they'd
think the
get back on track.
language said that because in the past, before, the pandemic, our food service operations probably had a profit between like 19,000 and
Well, that's what I was
30,000.
hoping, it was gonna take years to pay
So-
it back, and it was gonna take
Mhm.
years to get back on track.
Mhm.
And then we didn't know we were gonna be getting free lunch payments over and over a year,
Right.
turn it down again, turn it on, turn it off. So, I mean, for them to get into a position of being able to maintain income to pay us back is gonna be difficult, especially if they have to replace walk-in freezers, ovens, things like that.
Mhm.
So,
you have to look at it from a town and a
Yes.
board's perspective. The 32 years I've been on the board, the food service was always self-sustaining.
Mhm.
We never gave, there was never any money in our budget that taxpayers had to pay for
not once,
Not
until
once.
this,
until the pandemic.
a global pandemic took over. That's right.
And that was a situation where we needed, because there was no revenue coming in, and then we still needed a payroll.
And we were still making food,
And we
making
were still
lunches to
making- right.
hand out.
So,
Right, and this is, and again, to my point, and over, and I'll say it over and over again, because obviously it's, it's a sticking point for me, right? This is where the state failed us, okay? And so we can talk about the pandemic, right? underlying causal relation, and again, we have a long-standing history of not only providing a food program, but doing it at no cost, okay? And so,
That was a mistake, okay, in hindsight, that's a mistake. We did it for the betterment of the town.
Correct.
Okay, other towns, and there's a lot of towns that is part of the Board of Ed budget.
Right.
yep,
They're not having the type of discussion we're having now, because whenever they had a requirement for capital,
That's right.
okay,
Budget for
they
it.
put it in the budget and have it
Right.
done. We've never done that. I don't think the Board of Ed paid for any of the refrigerators or the stoves or any of that equipment. It's all been self-sustaining.
right, and that's, you know, and.
That's why it's stuck in your crop.
Right, and well, and to further my point, right, like, if the true intention was $300,000 as a loan, even knowing that it would take years and years and years and years to ever recoup that money at, you know, a profit of $10, $15, $20,000 a year, it would take a virtual lifetime. We're talking about now using it to upgrade equipment. Where was that conversation in 2020? Did we not think in 2020 that we were gonna have to replace equipment?
You have to put it,
You want me to compartmentalize something that is directly related?
So I do
no,
remember.
over the years, we've replaced equipment,
Mhm.
okay?
How?
Whether it be so, how? The monies that
very-
were,
Painfully,
the monies that were raised through the food service paid for those.
Correct, and this is my point. So that money was never going to be used to pay back a loan. This is my point.
We never knew that the free lunch was gonna continue. The state changed the law, right, am I right?
yeah.
And
Our
they're gonna
concern-
reimburse us.
Mhm.
They're not reimbursing us at the same rate that we were charging meals for.
But I'm gonna say, and I won't blame this all on the state either, I think part of it is we have to keep our district running. Part of it is, I mean, if we didn't give the loan, there would be replacements, because we would have been making a profit had there not been, and I do blame it on the global pandemic, I don't blame it on the state, if it wasn't for the pandemic, we wouldn't be in this position,
Yeah,
right?
and I think
Because if we
we've been
did,
lucky also.
But hold
Go
on,
ahead.
because if we
Mhm.
did, then these $10, $15, $20, $30,000 would be coming in each year, they've been putting it away, and then you replace this freezer, or you replace this oven, or whatever, as it's been going on for the last 30+ years. And I think it's a testament to the food service program that they've been able to do that,
Oh,
and
yeah.
not take a penny out of taxpayers' pockets in the town of Southington. And it means that the program is running really, really well, and fiscally responsibly too.
Yeah.
I think once we get over this food service thing, this pandemic thing, and if we get back to the point of having normal lunch programs and normal income programs that go along with this, we get back on track with having a self-sustaining, self-maintaining food service program in the town of Southington. And
Maybe, now,
And then-
the state, what they have on the books right now through the legislation is that they're going to be reimbursing all the towns for the lunches and breakfast. Are they not?
It, hasn't been passed yet, though.
Okay. Right, and at
Yeah,
what,
no.
and at what rate?
The other thing that I was gonna say to Zaya's point is that we've been lucky over the last several years that we have been able to remodel, renovate our elementary schools, 5 of them, the 2 middle schools, and as part of that, the equipment does
Has
get,
been upgraded,
right.
correct.
So that certainly went a long way towards the success of, keeping the machines and the equipment operational. So I do see this as an opportunity for us to reinvest into the program, so.
I'm in favor of moving forward with it.
I'm not 100% sure yet. I think I understand what Sean's saying, right? Because that money was originally earmarked to pay back the loan, but now we're kind of repurposing. Is that kind of where you're going, Sean?
Yeah, you know, and, you know, I understand both Zaya and Dave's point.
Right.
in that we have run a self-sustaining food service program. And so it hasn't been a part, like surrounding districts, right? Hasn't been a part of the Board of Education budget. So we've kept out of our taxpayers' pocket, so to speak, but now we're essentially dipping in their pocket for $300,000. Based on how it was done, and again, this was before I was serving, so I don't have a say in how that was done, and I don't think I would have done, you know, what the previous board did in 2020, but as I sit here now, I understand the reason for it and possibly the opportunity that it creates, but I am not in favor of it.
Okay? If something goes down, a refrigerator, okay, or a stove, okay, we're obligated to fix it anyway,
The board,
the board.
correct.
So either we do it now and kind of
We have to pay you
revisit
away.
it.
Right.
We're gonna pay for it one way or the other.
I mean, that's everything, Dave.
But do we have to release them from repayment though?
Well, that's where the auditors now are asking this question.
Right. And it's a very reasonable question.
Yeah. So their recommendation, I think, is gonna be, you know, take it from one pocket and put it into the other. It's really all that's gonna happen. The money isn't gonna go anywhere. I mean, it's not gonna leave the district.
Right.
It's just gonna be reallocated on paper to
You know,
cover something.
In the
You know,
food service program, where it was,
right,
where it
and
was
it-
put.
And again, the other thing that we have to consider that we're kind of glossing over now is, yes, I understand from your standpoint, it's an opportunity, but also understand that we just appointed a new food service director. It would be a nice and like, you know, welcome into the district, welcome into your new role. We're even gonna be able to provide you with some new equipment, but at the same time, what does that say to her in the back of her head? Which is, I run into a problem, I don't necessarily need to run a tight ship, a lean ship. I would kinda like to see performance, then do the nice,
So I think.
instead of just, you come into a role and you're like, here you go.
So I would foresee that if we were to allow the program to use the funds, that they would bring, as I said, she's currently making an inspection of all of the kitchens. She has a lot of, new ideas, aimed at hopefully increasing participation. And we could set parameters on the use of the funds to come back to this committee when purchases are being considered, with the food, with the equipment. So she's currently going around and developing the conditions of the equipment. And this was something that Brian Goralski had actually asked us to do many years ago. We do have a list of all the equipment, but what, you know, similar to the trucks, you can put a list together, but unless you look at the condition, is it good or poor or fair, that kind of a thing. So that's, she's taking that next initiative to go through all the kitchens with her managers, and looking at all the equipment in that manner. So, you know, I would be certain, I'm not giving her like carte blanche, like go spend, go crazy, but a matter of, you know, developing an equipment replacement plan that maybe we've never had the ability to put on paper and have a systematic thought process as far as replacing things before maybe they break, and then we don't have a steamer for, because currently the Thalberg School doesn't have a steamer right now, so they're having to take other
Right,
other
and-
ways of preparing their food,
and-
so.
And we need that regardless,
Mhm.
right? Just just like the vehicles, we need, we need an inventory and we need replacement and maintenance plans that, you know, whether we're doing it for roofs on schools, whether we're doing it for vehicles or whether we're doing it for kitchen equipment, I feel like that's the basic. So we absolutely need that, and yes, that expectation should be set. Yeah, I don't, you know, my opinion would be that I would not communicate, nor would I make available, from jump $300,000 for use on equipment. That's my opinion.
So I look at it this way, it's, there's $300,000 there. I don't care what box it's in, what bucket it's in, but if something was to happen tomorrow or next week, and that we needed to replace a refrigerator, or we lose all the food. We had a situation some years back at Hatton, if you recall, we used to have to transfer,
Right,
okay,
driving.
every day, okay, caravans of vehicles, bringing food from the refrigerator at Strong or Stolberg, one of the other schools,
That was strong.
to Hatton,
Other side of town,
okay, so, we don't wanna get into that situation. So, it's gonna have to be replaced one way or the other, so whether it comes out of this bucket or that bucket, it's a paper issue right now, based upon the auditor's review,
Right, and there's no need to press forward on this in this moment, correct? Like,
the auditors are coming back on the 30th, the 31st, to this location. And they've already questioned, the finance manager at the town, and he's asking me the question as well. And
correct.
I know this
Okay.
committee is the one that
so you don't wanna get written up,
put the arrangement together.
yeah.
yeah, it's,
So-
yeah, you don't wanna get written up by an auditor.
And I guess
They-
the other question I'll ask is, so there's, if we were to ask them to start repaying this, right? The repayment would start whenever, it could be this year, could not be this year, if they have to start replacing equipment. What would they be paying back? I mean, they don't have $300,000 sitting there right now, they're kind of level set right now, right?
Yes, there's a
There's a little
calculation
bit.
that the state requires us to file, as far as like, excess operating funds and what your spend down plan would be. And then who we would be paying back is, the fiscal 20 non-lapsing
Because where I'm going with it, to your point a moment
If
ago
the
about the performance, right? If
allowed.
they were gonna start doing replacement of equipment, they don't have $300,000 to pull from, right? They're still pulling from their break-even, slightly, profitable business, right? So there's not $300,000 that they're gonna be drawing that money from. So, I mean, I think it's one pocket versus the other pocket, where is it coming from? And we need to have food service, we need to have a self-sustaining food service, I don't think we wanna be in the business of funding them at all, right?
That
And
would be
we've always
ideal.
said no,
Right.
right?
Good deal.
So, I mean, I don't think we're gonna give the new food service director upon coming into town saying, hey, I got 300 grand. Ooh, so if I don't do certain things, or if the performance isn't there, they'll just give me more money. Again, I repeat myself again, this all started because of a global pandemic. That wouldn't have taken place had this not happened. So this was an extraordinary circumstance, and now we're going into a situation where, had that not happened, there would be funds to start replacing some of this equipment. There's not right now. And it's instead of putting them 300 grand in the hole before they even start looking at the fix, the money was put there to keep the
Emergency
food
development,
service
we would
going
be making a special appropriation
from our
to
budget.
the town, you know, to the board of finance and to the council in order to cover. Because we can't take loans out on our own.
Correct.
So like I said, that 300,000 is strictly a number on a piece of paper. So whether it's on this piece of paper or that piece of paper, that's what the auditors wanna get squared away as to under whose
Right, it's,
jurisdiction.
So there's not a consensus.
it's the intent.
Doesn't seem that.
Right.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I guess
The
what happened.
the auditor is, you know, essentially looking into the intent of, you know, is it a loan or is it not? Because it's recorded in our books as a loan.
Right.
So if there's not a consensus on moving forward with this, what's the next step?
I mean.
Goes to the full board for discussion?
We could delay until the next meeting. I could have another conversation with the auditors and get what their directive would be, and bring it back to this committee again, and then bring it to the full board after that. I mean, I wanted to address it just because I know they're coming next week, and I felt as though I needed to, at least have the conversation with the group that, approved the loan to begin with, so I felt this was the place for us to have that conversation. I don't mind if we wanna table it for now and not take action on it. I'll gather more information from the auditors, and, they may end up saying that it's uncollectible and, doing their journal entry on, from an accounting standpoint, and
Just
from
write it
there,
off,
then
so
we
the
would,
money- So that money would just disappear.
it would stay inside this food service company.
Correct,
Mhm,
right.
yeah,
So
and it
they'd
would
They'd
be,
be working in the negative.
Well, that would be
no,
right.
no, the
Yeah.
debt, so it would go, it would be a journal entry on the food service
Correct.
side to move it from a loan down into the equity section. Cause it would be a value of the company, because we no longer owed it out to a third part, or, the non-lapsing
Okay.
account. So it wouldn't be detrimental to the food service operation, it would just be releasing the liability of having to pay it back outside of that company.
So why don't you do that, why don't we get that information from them and then
Okay,
have the next.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm happy to bring it back to the committee, yep.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll put that one on hold.
Yeah, and I I'm leaning in that direction, just,
Mhm.
from, and again, from a, from a financial statement accounting standpoint,
Mhm.
I'm much more comfortable with acknowledging it for what it is.
Is equity, like value of the company, Yeah, and I
And-
agree,
and
like, we wouldn't.
Instead of moving it, taking the loan and basically moving it from here to there and reallocating it back into the program, it's already in the
It's there.
program.
Right.
It's there where it was meant to
So-
be, right?
So let's just do the responsible accounting portion of it and be done with it.
So you're saying you want to
I-
go forward with an adjustment to release the loan and call it equity? Is that what I'm hearing?
Bless you.
I'm comfortable with that if that satisfies the auditors.
Okay, alright, I'll have the conversation with them next week when they're here, because it is something that we either have to address or take action on at some point, so it
Correct.
makes sense to just,
Right.
come to a resolution, but.
Right, and again, to your point and your point, right, like, like why get dinged for something that we don't need to get dinged on?
Right.
It's probably gonna end up there anyways, right? It's probably gonna end up there anyways.
I still think the simplest way to do it is just put it out to collection.
Welcome to town.
New girl, right?
Yeah, welcome to town.
Yes, and then, yeah, that's great, and then we would look to see what equipment needs replacing, won't go out and buy it all, obviously, and just,
And that's a very good
operate
gating
it.
point too, is
Mhm.
she's gonna have to come here
Mhm.
for any purchases. And so
Yeah.
that's a good control over how that money gets spent.
and then she's planning, and Kyle, are both planning to come to like the first meeting in November to meet the full board. Kyle will have his,
Oh.
first capital plan
Nobody's ever
on,
met you yet?
you guys have.
No, I'm just kidding, you guys have.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I know, my twins here, so.
I know, right?
When he walked in last time, I'm like, I'm staring at him, like, that's
Same-
James,
same-
it's
same
not.
beard and everything.
Exactly, I'm like.
I just didn't go full
Yeah,
scalp
yeah.
today.
Oh, no, give me a couple days, I'll be there, Joe.
I swore it was you. I'm
Yeah.
just staring at him like, I'm sorry for
Wait a
staring at
minute.
you, but that's.
You
Did
that's
something
your top
change?
James. That was really funny. That was funny.
Alright, well, I appreciate you all, obviously it was short notice too, so I appreciate you, we were trying to do it for Monday, but then, schedules didn't work, so,
Flexibility is a good thing.
yeah, this is great, and
Good, thank you.
appreciate your help, thank you.
Thank you. I'm sorry if I was rude.